Good morning again. Good morning again. Good morning. Before I start on the talk, I just wanted to share, last weekend, many of us here gathered and honored the passage of two of our longtime and beloved congregants, Karen Coffey and Eden Hart. At the same time last weekend, I and my wife Cynthia and James Massengale took 10 of our teams over to the winter teen camp. I had promised the teens a year ago that I would go with them to the camp. So Cynthia and James and I all became trained as advisors to do that, because you have to be trained in order to spend that whole weekend with the teens and stuff. And so we were at winter camp in the Santa Cruz Mountains. Probably 12 different churches were gathered there. We actually had the largest winter camp of the 3 that were going on in the movement that weekend, which the camp director was very proud of. It was the first time that Northern California winter camp was the largest one. But we had teams from Reno to Santa Cruz to Lake Oswego. We actually had one come over from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and we actually had an exchange student from France. And so we were literally touching lives all over the place. And to watch these young people, and these were students who were anywhere from your kind of what I would call your really normal straight A or honor roll type students to students who were barely hanging on, or even maybe not even still in high school, and having all sorts of figuring out who they are at this stage in experiments. We had one cabin called the Gender Bender cabin, which is where, for the kids who are trying to figure out which gender they were presenting to the world as, which is not necessarily the one they were born with. And to see the love, to see the collective love, to see the collective acceptance. I don't know how your teen years were, but mine weren't the most pleasant years of my life. And my high school wasn't the most loving and accepting place I'd ever been to. And so I had a little fear and trepidation of walking back into the teen experience, with that many teens there. But it was this deep field of love and acceptance and support. Teens were dealing with some real challenges, real struggles, and yet totally loved and supported. So it was being intensely immersed for 4 days in this field of energy. Excuse me, I caught a cold, and I'm still kind of fighting out the last little vestiges of that, so give me a moment with the cough drop here. But I just wanted to share with you that we were sharing the love of Redding, and Redding picking up the love of this whole group of teens. And I watched each of our young people come back and have somewhere during that a transformative experience. You watch light bulbs pop and things happen for each of them. And so it was just I wanted to say thank you for those of you who have supported the teens financially or emotionally in any way that you have. Those who've donated money to the youth program and to their lunches they do after the second service on the second Sundays and things like that. Because a lot of these kids said the camps, the summer and winter camp, are the only places in their entire lives that they experience love. And they experience deep, unconditional love. So we do fabulous work with that. And I just want to let you know about that and how powerful it was and how powerful what we're doing in the world is. And as one of the advisors said, if these are the only teens in the world, and I know they're not, but if these are the only teens in the world who are getting it, the world is in good shape. This is our future. So I just wanted to share that with you. This week we're continuing our year-long look, as with most of the religious sciences churches around the country, around the world, of looking at living our values, living a values-based life. And I know Reverend Sue mentioned this last week. And we're working on the third of the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind textbook. And so we started off with looking at the thing itself. That was the first chapter we looked at. Last week, Reverend Sue did a wonderful talk on the way it works. And today's topic is what it does. Now, if you notice, there's a little theme running through there. It's what it is, how it works, and what it does. Okay? Not how I wish it would work. Doggone it. Not how I wish it was, but how it is. What it is, what it does, how it works. And so for us to become aware of that, next week we finally look at, and how do we use it? We're going to kind of move into that a little bit with this chapter, but next week is really how do we then start to really use it? How do we apply it to our lives? But we're spending this whole time looking at what it does, what it is. and becoming familiar with that. And so it's kind of coming out of our own little world, out of our own perceptions, and saying, wow, let's look at something, let's have a bigger perspective. How does it work? And so that's what we're looking at today, is what it does. And I love this chapter. If you told me I was going to be marooned on a desert island somewhere and I could have only one chapter of the Science Mind textbook to read, it would either be the summary, kind of in the low 400 pages, or this chapter here. That's one of the two chapters, because this one to me contains the entire teaching encapsulated. And I love it because this is one of those chapters that Ernest Holmes says, our teaching could be summed up in one sentence. Ernest Holmes. One sentence. And a few thousand pages of other books. The sentence is, there is a power within you to create the life you want. There's a power within you to create the life you want. Isn't that great? If we got that, just think if we truly all got that. So what does it do? It imparts its nature, and we partake of that nature. So there's this nature of God, it is constantly expressing that, and we get to partake of that. Emerson says that we are inlets and may become outlets to the divine. We are inlets, we're already here. It's always imparting its nature. It's always just being God, or spirit, or whatever name we want to give it. It's always being that. And we partake of its nature to the degree that we can open up and partake of it. So this is a look at not only what it does, but how we can interact with it. And it's important to understand how it works and not how we wish it would work. Ernest says that while it is true that we are immersed in an infinite intelligence, it is also true that this intelligence can acquaint us with its ideas only as we are able to receive them. Only as we are able to receive them. Which is why we do classes, which is why we do talks, which is why we gather together, is to start to expand how much more can I allow Spirit to move through me? How much more can I open up to partaking of its nature? We can only know God insofar as we become God. Breathe that in for a moment. I can only know God insofar as I can become God, as I can become that nature. The infinite becomes our experience only as we embody its nature. Embody it. See, it's one thing to know about it. It's one thing to have this nice theory, oh, God's this, 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 and this. But can I embody that? Can I bring that in? Can I live that? So if we want greater love, if we want greater harmony, if we want greater wisdom, if we want greater beauty, if we want greater abundance in our lives, we have to embody that nature within ourselves. It's not enough to say, I know God is that. And look, isn't it nice? There's some people over here who are that too. But if I want to do it, I have to embody it. We're going to do a little meditative process to engage ourselves with that in a few minutes, if we have time. And since it's true that we live as in an infinite being, there's always more of this to embody. So however much love, however much harmony, however much beauty, abundance of anything you have in your life right now, there's more. That's the good news. There's more. We get to play in Spirit more and more and more every day. Ernest says we look too far away for reality. Reality is simply, its nature is to impart and ours to receive. Its nature is to impart and ours is to receive. See, we're like tuners for a radio. And if we're tuned directly into the station, we receive it really clearly. But if we're a little bit off, we get static, we get other stations. I love my friend Mary Morris. He talks about we can either be listening to CNN, constantly negative news, or the Discovery Channel, and discover things and explore and experience. Okay? We tuned where we want to receive. This is my other favorite quote from this chapter as I look at this stack of books. Let us do away with a ponderosity of thought and approach the thing simply and quietly. It is the nature of the universe to give us what we are able to take. If we get that, we have the secret of life. I can stop my talk right now, and you have the secret of life. It is the nature of the universe to give us whatever we can take. But like Ernest, I'm going to keep going. So now we understand the simple nature of the universe. How do we work with it? So the first thing that Ernest reminds us is mental work is definite. It's not enough to just say, oh, I'd like love. It has to be definite. He says our thought and conscious receptivity differentiate this universal possibility. So the universe is the infinite possibility. We get to define it. How does that show up in my life? So we differentiate this universal possibility by drawing it through our minds and causing it to flow into particular channels. Through the conscious receptivity of our different faiths, one will differentiate one kind of result, and another mental state will differentiate a different manifestation. So we get to choose, and your choice and my choice and the person next to you's choice will all be unique and different to us. All perfect. All perfect. If we look at the idea of beauty, one person's idea might be the idea of a rose for beauty. Another one's might be a piece of beautiful music. Another one might be a wonderful painting of art. There's all these different ways of expressing beauty. And then, of course, we get into what kind of the music it is and what kind of the art it is. But we get to differentiate it in our own unique way. We get to draw it through our minds, through our way, and say, and this is how I would like it to show up. It shows up specifically as we accept it, or as we expect it, as I expect it. Not as I wish, but as I expect it. And this is where we sometimes get into trouble, because we say, I want it this way, but I really expect this to happen instead. Yeah. We must align our mind with the one mind. We must align our mind with the one mind. And we create the mold through which this universe flows, the universal life flows. Ernest says a treatment, this is our prayer process, a treatment is a statement into the law embodying the concrete idea of our desires and accompanied by an unqualified faith that the law works for us as we work with it. Let us waste no further time looking for the secret of success or the key to happiness. He keeps saying this throughout the chapter. It's like, this is it, this is it. Yes, I'm going to write 400 more pages, 600 more pages, but this is really it, if we get this. So a treatment is a statement into the law, into this process that moves the universal mind into the individualized form that we chose. We make that statement into that process, and we embody the concrete idea of our desires. If a truck is coming down, if you know that a concrete truck is coming to your house and it's going to pour concrete, right? You get to form how the concrete will be. It can be a driveway, it can be a swimming pool, it can be a foundation for a house, it can be a slab for a shed, it can be, or it can, you can have no form whatever, and the concrete is just going to go all over your yard, right? And so, what's the mold that you want to create of this universal energy that is constantly pouring itself out? Whatever mold we consciously, definitively, deliberately create in our minds is how it shows up. It's accompanied by an unqualified faith that the law works for us as we work with it. When I first came into this movement, somebody said, the universe is a conspiracy for your good. I wanted to say a bunch of swear words at them that basically would say, and I disagree with you. I've since come to realize the universe is totally in a conspiracy for our good. It is always working for us. For us. And when we finally get that, when we finally let go of whatever stories we've created, it starts to shift our experience of the world. Ernest goes on to say that a treatment is an active thing. When one gives a treatment, one is not sitting around hoping that something may happen. He is definitely, constructively, actively stating, sensing, and knowing some specific good. So it's not enough to just say, oh, I know that really good things are happening for me. Get clear. What is that to you? I love it. I've known people who say, I want more love in my life. And what they really mean is, I want a loving relationship with a human partner. And what they get is a puppy. More love, right? I want more money, and they find a penny on the ground. They've got more money. Probably wasn't what they were looking for. So if we start to be specific, to tell the universe, this is how I want you to show up for me, we start to understand the idea that we actually can take this plastic form, this moldable form that is the universal life, and mold it into what we want it to be in our lives. Not only can we always are. We always have been, we are right this second, and we will continue to do so. And our only journey is to become more and more conscious and make wiser and wiser choices. So active engagement of our mind with the mind for the purpose of creating is what we're looking for here. Ernest says a passive meditation will never produce an active demonstration, any more than an artist can paint a picture by sitting down with his paints but never using them. The mind must conceive before the creative energy can produce. We get to paint the picture of our lives. That's the cool thing. We get to paint the picture of our lives. But we can't just sit there with the paints and say, yeah, I know I can do that, and expect something to happen. There's nothing wrong, by the way, with passive meditation, of just simply sitting here and listening to Spirit. But when we're going to start creating, that has to be an active meditation. The final key is faith or belief. Faith or belief. We must believe that we have the power. We must really know that we have the power, the ability to create what we want, and that the universe is for us in this creation. If I doubt this, if I'm not sure about this, then I'm going to get that staticky result. My tuner is not dialed in completely to the station. And we must be certain of the demonstration. So when I hold something in mind, when I say this is the result I choose to create, and I'm going to know this until it shows up, I have to be certain that it is going to produce a result. Just like when I flip on the light switch, I'm certain that lights are going to come on. And if they don't, I don't sit there and go, well, there's something wrong with electricity here. The law of electricity is no longer working. I go, there's a problem with the line itself. There's a problem with the flow of the electricity, and I have to look for that. But I don't question whether electricity itself is working. So true faith or knowing is the way. This is one of my favorite this is Ernest with a little bit of humor. Many people correctly begin their treatment in this manner. I know that the principle of intelligence within me will direct me, etc. And then they complete it with the thought, well, I certainly hope it does. Okay. He says this is completely forgetting any definite statement and is simply wondering if possibly some good will come along. And I love that. I've done that. I hope some good will come along. It doesn't work, by the way. It doesn't work well. When we stand in that power, when we claim our power, I am a creator of my life in this universe. Say that with me. I am a creator. No, come on, with feeling, like you really actually believe it and mean it. Let's try it again. I am a creator of my life in this universe. Yeah. Breathe that in. It's the most truthful statement that you can make. So we stand powerfully in this truth, and we affirm this demonstration. We stand in this truth, and we affirm its demonstration. See, this thing is working. It's constantly working. Ernest says we should say to doubt, you have no place in my mind, get out. I know that the faith within me now neutralizes all doubt. Let's say that together. To any doubt that you have in your mind, just think of that doubt for a moment. And just say with me, you have no place in my mind. Get out. I know that the faith within me now neutralizes all doubt. breathe that in. So I invite you this week to begin to play with that. To begin to create in your mind, what is it that you truly want? To declare in faith, to know in faith that the universe is showing up as that for you now. It is showing up as that. Take time to unite with the one mind. To simply sit and do nothing more than uniting with the one mind. This is why I love the first 2 steps of treatment. It's the uniting with the one mind. God is all that there is. God is this love. God is this harmony. God is this abundant good. Whatever it is that I'm praying about, that I'm choosing to begin to consciously create in my life, God already is this, or spirit, or whatever name you want to give it. And second step, I am one with that already. I am one with that infinite presence. That presence and I are one. If you can do that to the point that you feel it, that you really get it, you can manifest anything you want. When you really know that God is this expanded presence, all there is, and I'm one of it, we can manifest whatever it is that we want. I want to close with a quote from Raymond Charles Barker's wonderful book, The Power of Decision. I believe Mary's teaching a class on this right now. This is one of my favorite passages out of this book, and this is a great book. If you're not in Mary's class, at least go buy the book and read it. And Raymond Charles Barker says, "In my years of counseling, I have found that only those who really want what they want enough to decide that they shall have it will get what they want. To decide that they will have it. Not to hope for or wish that they have it, but to decide that they will have it. The others mutter at me that great statement, 'With God all things are possible.' They expect me to agree, which I do, but their concept of this statement is that it will be done unto them without any effort on their part. They expect their half-thinking to be rewarded by a whole result." One of my favorite lines in all of New Thought writing. They expect their half-thinking to be rewarded by a whole result. This is a spiritual and mental impossibility. Those who have actually decided to have what they want do not expect special favors from the universe. They are ready and willing to think, what they want, long enough to get what they want. To hang on to that thought, to stand in that thought, to stand in that truth until it manifests. They are not afraid of the good, solid mental work of believing. They know there are no miracles. It does take the good, solid work of believing to let the decision become the fact. The possibilities of the infinite mind are the possibilities of man. Think about that for a moment. The possibilities of infinite mind are our possibilities. I loved it at the teen camp. We had one of the advisors, who's the music minister down in San Jose, was one day wearing a T-shirt and it said, "God," and then it had the greater than, the mathematical sign beside it. Just God is greater than whatever. God is greater. The possibilities of the infinite mind are the possibilities of man. But we have the job of accepting one of the many possibilities, deciding upon it, and believing in a clear-cut way that it is done. And that is our work. That is how we interact with the way it works and the way that we work with it. Let's move that into prayer. And so knowing that there is this infinite possibility, this one, not only unlimited, but beyond the idea of limitation. Total, complete love. Vibrant life. Beauty. Power. Peace. Joy. This one presence is all that there is. And joyfully, and because it is, we are one of it. We already are this. This is our nature already. Each of us is the joy, the beauty, the power, the peace, the love, the light, the life energy of the divine. Each of us already is this in form. And so I speak my word that each of us this week uniquely creates and applies that infinite possibility into our lives in new and more wonderful ways by simply believing, by simply knowing that we get to be conduits for the divine. And we get to choose how it shows up in our lives. And so we create the molds, we create the forms in which we choose, in which we would enjoy that showing up for us. We stretch beyond where we've ever been before and accept more good than we have ever experienced before, more good than perhaps we've ever even allowed ourselves to imagine before. And we say yes to that. We stand in this power. We stand and make this definite decision and stay with that decision, knowing that it will show up with a powerful expectation. And so in gratitude, I release this word into that which we call that law, that process of moving word or thought into form, knowing that it does that. It's not our reason or our responsibility to figure out how or why. We just simply place our word, our thought, our choice, our decision into this law and allow it to manifest in the most beautiful and perfect ways possible. And it does so. And so it is. Great and powerful week.